Welcome back. You're now watching the lifestyle segment on the weekend show brought to you by Holocron Pocket. My name is Andy Madaki.
By Medium Frank.
Hello, Didi.
Hi, Andy.
It's good to see you back.
Happy New Month.
Happy New. Oh, that's true. How have you
On
been?
my end, I've been good. I've
You
been
look
good.
well rested. You don't look like what we're going through.
We thank God for
We
that.
thank God. What was the highlight of your week?
Based on the fact that I'm in Nigeria, I don't have any highlights so far. I've just been disappointed daily.
I know you'll talk about fall prices, but we'll have a lot of time to talk about that in the coming week. But happy International Day of the Girl Child to you and all
Thank
the
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Somewhere, one parent and someone still sees you as a girl, and you would always be the girl child, not the woman that you become at this point. But in 2011, the United Nations adopted a resolution to make October 11 the Day of the Girl Child. And this year, like every year, we're constantly seeing how we can support the girl child, how we can also amplify the work and efforts of the girl child, and how we can actually secure the vision for their future because it's an active activity and work which we constantly need to do. There's still a lot of discrepancy in education, in the job market, in pay gap, in healthcare, and the likes. During the Olympics, we had a full series on Empower Her Game to talk about investing in women and the girl child, and we won't stop until we get parity at every level. And joining us to have this conversation,
We have Anuli Aniebo, who is the EDR Women Hub, and we also have Shwagwe Damak, who is the president and founder of the Child Foundation. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
welcome back, Emily.
Thank you.
How is your book doing? Let's get to that before we go in.
Thank you so much for asking that. So my book, More Than Just Pretty, it's sold quite a number of copies that I didn't even know that it would sell up to because it's on Amazon.uk. It's also on Robin Heights in Nigeria, and I've also had physical copies. So to be honest, I know you asked for what highlight, but highlight for me was getting my 10-year-old daughter to actually read my book cover to cover.
That's amazing.
Yes, when she turned 10, I said, you have to read Mommy's book. And she read my book, and we had answered all the questions. So that has actually catapulted her. She's now the deputy head girl in her school. So I'm like, if I did one thing right, that's definitely one thing I did right. And then the books are amazing. They're also in House 43. And I'm just so grateful that I'm able to share a little bit of what I have for the girls.
I think that's really amazing, and knowing that you have a girl child that you can literally see the process and see the impact your work is having on her speaks to the role of mentors. But what does the importance of an International Day of the Girl Child mean to you?
For me, it's a very good question because I ask myself that every year. It means to me that I'm checking myself to see, what I'm doing differently in supporting myself and my child. However, when I look externally, what more am I doing to really support girls and young women who are growing up in our community? So what it means to me is always trying to reflect, check, and be honest with myself in what impact I'm making or the policies I'm making or the government is making. And as you know, it's called Girls' Vision for the Future. It's an apt theme, but are we really painting a good vision for our girls? What vision are we really going to change now that we're here in this moment? So it meant a lot for me to ensure that Annalie, make sure that you're not relenting and you are that voice that girls want to hear from, and you are a role model, not just outside but inside as well.
Shwagwe, could you share your own understanding of the significance of the International Day of the Girl Child?
Just like she said, it's a day of reflection. But for me, I reflect on what's happening in my environment. Just some days ago, something was trending on Twitter. NDLEA put out a memo saying women have to get approvals from their husbands. And someone even added yesterday that for single women, they need to get approvals from their dads before they can, travel or apply for visa. And I'm like, there's so much happening with girls, there's so much happening with women, yet each time it looks like we are making progress. Somehow in our own environment here locally, things appear to be, regressing. And so it makes me, on every International Day of the Girl Child, as the day is approaching, I think to myself, what can I do for girls in my environment? With the poverty line expanding every day, girls are very vulnerable in Nigeria, with violence in different parts of the country, especially in the north. Girls have become even more vulnerable than they already are. And so I always reflect, what can I do to help girls in my environment? And so this year, through the nonprofit that myself and other members of my team run, we decided to launch an initiative to help girls in the north go back to school, and it's called Girls Education and Mentorship Initiative. So through this initiative, we want to advocate for girls to be enrolled in school. We want to advocate for barriers to education, to access to education for girls to be eliminated, so that girls in the north can be enrolled in school. GPE for Education, Global Partnership for Education, released some recommendations in recent times, and he said when girls are educated, they are less likely to be married off early. When girls are educated, maternal death rate will drop, and when girls are educated, economies will prosper. So if these are the advantages, why are we still, you know, dealing with a high rate of out of school, you know, girls in Nigeria, predominantly in the north? So International Day of the Girl Child for me is it's a call to action. I must do something about the girls in my environment.
Sure,
Thank you,
I
Pastor.
think it's quite interesting because I've followed the work which your non-profits, The Child, has done over the last couple of years, and I must say it is really impressive. But I know it's not without its difficulties, because the way it works right now, everyone has the job which is paying the bills, then they have courses which they are passionate about, and I know it's not the easiest, and so I'm guessing there are a lot of women out there who wish that they can support more, who wish they can have the child. Women, how do you strike a balance between having a 9 to 5 and then running a not-profit which actually costs money? What's the hack?
And yeah, I feel like you've been in my conversations through this past week, because my friends told me 2 days ago, they said, Shwari, it looks like you have 48 hours in a day. So for me, I don't rest. I don't know. That's not supposed to be a good thing. It's just that so far it hasn't affected my health, and I'm thankful. So at break time, first off, I try to get to work early. So work resumes at 8. So I try to get to work at 7. So between 7 to 8, I am using that time either for Arm the Child or, like, you know, Global Shapers. When I close from work closes at 4, I use minimum 2 hours to contribute to Arm the Child Foundation. And honestly, I don't do it alone, so it doesn't even revolve around me. There's a whole team, even though they all have 9 to 5, you know, they all have their own, you know, jobs, but each of us contributes our quota. So we run a volunteer-driven system. I believe that's why we've been able to function for this long without any form of grants. We also have, like you said, friends and members of the public that just support us. So each time we have a project and we put it out, we have people donating. So crowdfunding works for us as well. So that's how we've been able to sustain the nonprofit while also working 9 to 5 through this period. We'll be 7 years in December.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Annalie, how can we ensure now that girls, particularly in underprivileged communities, have access to good healthcare, good education, and even girls in general have positive bills passed by the Senate, the reps, all of that?
Yes, fantastic question. You see, we ask that question every year, and for some reason, when we come back, we still try to evaluate where we've been. As you know, the bills was tried to be passed, and we met a lot of gaps. To be honest, I want to address the social norms that still exist in our society. Whenever it is that we want to do amazing courses like this, like our course or my course, you wonder, why is the government not just funding us because we're doing good, right? Exactly. But there's a social norm, the social norms that still hold all of us back, and that's what I feel that we need to keep on addressing. You know, I think innovation and technology is quite powerful, because in talking about maternal health, for example, if you look at the rural communities, imagine that a lot of these women have access to technology that can educate them or re-educate them about how they can take charge of their bodies or their mental agility or their emotions or their decisions through technology. How far would that go for each of them? But right now, the technological access for women in the rural areas is very, very low. Recently, I attended a Voice of Women conference where we're trying to look at the bridge in the divide between urban and rural women, where rural women are always campaigning and voting, but are you choosing women? What's the conversation? How can we choose more women? So yes, the bills are great, the policies are great. Aside from that, what more can we honestly speak about? So for me, social norms is still existing. Women and girls still have one goal to achieve. Grow up, be married, have children. Nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful to have a family, but what more can you do? But women are raised not to be leaders. Only men are seen as leaders. How can we challenge that? So where the bills are, you can look at the National Assembly, how many women are there? But let's dial it back. What have we been educating the girls and the boys? What have we been telling them? Social normativity still exists in our society. So what I am canvassing is we have to keep on re-educating. We still have a crunch of girls and young women who really do not understand what more is there for leadership. I run Air Women Hub, and we try to educate girls and young women to think about leadership all the time. But I have to be honest that as you're telling them to think about leadership, you also have to understand that they are in a situation where nobody's going to look at you as a leader unless you follow some criteria that the society has put for you to follow. If you're going to run for assembly, run for house, one of the things they're going to look at to respect you is if you're a married woman. And if you're a single woman, they're going to look at you and say, okay, maybe go and get married first. But they don't say that to the men. So social norms is still very, very thriving. And as she spoke about education, it's fantastic to educate our girls. But these same girls are being told by some of us that this is the way you should go. Grow up, go to school, get married, have children, then you can be recognized. Are we really ready to change that narrative? Are we really ready to tell the girls to say, listen, you be bold enough to say, don't think about this and that, think about leadership. She's going to think you're being deceitful, because a lot of other women do have thought about being married and having children. So we have to try and think about re-education. I think it's amazing to educate, but what are you educating? Because you and I know that schooling is not just in the classrooms. Schooling is about your environment, like you said. But what else are we saying to them? What else are we teaching them? And you can ask, Angela, what are you telling your 10-year-old? I'm like, baby, you are everything. But this is the truth. As a role model for you, I will tell you, it is great to follow this path. This is what society has said. But it's also great to follow this path. You can have it all, but not at once. So hopefully the bills, we're going to keep pushing, going to keep talking about it. NDLEA has obviously retracted what they said. I don't know what they have to do with changing it. They retracted it. However, you have to think, is there a gender inclusive policy in place? That's what I am looking for. What's the gender inclusive policy to change the mindset of all of us, not just us, and men as well? Because actually, men actually need us, because men are under pressure. Men have been told socially to provide, to protect, and they're under pressure because the suicidal rate is more for men. But women are going more, because even in entrepreneurship businesses and all, when you look at the interest rates, women are paying double-digit interest rates and still ask for the same collateral that men have. But you've told us initially that we can't own houses, we can't own properties, we can't be leaders. But when we go and ask for loan, you're asking us to submit what the men are submitting. Come on, make it make sense, right? So to round up and answer to your question, we're going to have to keep on pushing and keep on re-educating. But the social norms is thriving in our midst, and that's what we really need to be talking about more, in my opinion.
Emily, I have one more question for you. You mentioned earlier about role models and who really are the role models. What are we showing these girls? Can you speak more on that?
Oh, Andy, don't get me started. Because honestly, it's very important. So let's just, for me, if I'm going to do a generalization, what we all do behind the scenes, we don't have preview for, so I'm not sure. But you know how social media has gone bonkers, in my opinion, on what is happening with what we're showing, which is not true. You know that recently in America, some of the states in America are suing TikTok. And the reason why they are suing TikTok is because they are blaming TikTok for derailing their young ones. The same TikTok. But I can tell you that every young person I go around is on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not saying I'm the most perfect human being, but I know why I'm not on TikTok. But the role models that we think we are seeing is what our girls are modeling. So even if I go the way I am and I try to speak to a young woman, she's going to first assess me before she listens to what I have to say. But now even let's go to the role modeling of where we think the women who have made it. For me right now, how many of us older women are deliberate to reposition a younger woman or a younger girl in positions of leadership? So when you are a CEO or an MD, how many more women are you role modeling to come into a certain position of leadership, whether it's C-suite, whether it's in secondary school? What are you intentionally doing? So it's really more than just talking. So for me, role modeling is shaky, Andy, because somebody can look at a role model who sings, which is fine because of what you're collecting, what ideology you have from her, and I can look at maybe an intelligent person and at the ideology I'm coming from there. So it's relative, right? But the main thing for me to role model is you yourself. Are you being honest and truthful about the kind of role modeling you want to be? And then when you have an opportunity to talk to a girl or educate a girl, what are you deliberately or intentionally impacting to that girl or a guy, for example? Because you can be an example for a guy to say, I want to be with a woman like that. What kind of human being are you? Because it's not about men or women now. It's not about gender. It's about the kind of human being that you are. So I'm struggling to find role models for myself in all facets of my life, but I have role models that drop in, maybe like education, intelligence, speaking, public speaking, politics. I have different role models. But as a human being, I have to role model myself because, like I said, I have a 10-year-old who has to follow through, and hopefully everybody else around me will follow suit.
I'm sure looking ahead now, what are your hopes for the future of girls around the world?
I want to permit me to limit it to my environment.
Sure.
I'm from Plateau State, and unfortunately, banditry and insurgency has ravaged some parts of the state. Now, when you visit IDP camps there, you find teenagers pregnant. It breaks my heart. And I think for me, I am the way I am. I'm very ambitious. I was telling my friends recently that why can't I just wake up and be normal? Like, why do I have all these dreams? I am the way I am because of my dad. From a tender age, my dad started calling me Margaret Thatcher. And I also saw, let me digress a bit and talk about role modeling like she spoke about. I saw women like Pauline Talen Jos. I saw women like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. I saw women like Dora Akunli, bless her soul. And I wanted to be like these women. And so I started reading about them. So for me, for girls in my environment, I want to bring model women closer to them. Like, I don't even want to go too far. I want to find women in Plateau State to bring closer to them. Yes, your circumstances have, because of what has happened, you are in this position, but you can get out of it. I want you to go back to school. I want you to thrive. I want you to dream, because you can actually be whatever you want to be. So my hope for girls in northern Nigeria, in Nigeria at large, is for them to thrive beyond societal norms, beyond barriers. Like she said, there's just so much in terms of social cultural orientation in Nigeria. But guess what? You know, when you even go to the north, people that are above the poverty line have their daughters educated. So poverty actually plays a huge role too. The ones that are being married off, I've not heard of any rich or even middle class man whose daughter was married off early. So poverty is also playing a huge role. So, you know, for girls in the north, for girls in Nigeria, just want them to thrive, and they need to go to school. Even if you don't want to work 9 to 5, education exposes you, you know, education gives you limitless opportunities. So it's very important to go back to school. So I really want girls in the north that are out of school, girls that are at the brink of being married off or are vulnerable to adolescent pregnancy or even teenage sex work, which is actually very prevalent, but maybe it isn't getting the attention it's supposed to get. Guardian released a publication, I think last month, about the number of girls in other African countries that are being trafficked, teenage girls actually. These girls are supposed to be in school. So that's my dream for them. Whoever I am, whatever I am now, whoever I'm going to be, it's all thanks to education.
I think that's a great place to leave it. But just for viewers who want to know about your organizations and support, how can they find I'm the Child and Air Woman?
Thank you. Arm the Child Foundation is on Instagram, and the handle is Arm the Child Foundation, ARMTHEFOUNDATION. It's on Twitter, Arm the Child NGO. We have a website, www.armthechildfoundation.org. We are also on LinkedIn and Facebook. Thank you.
And you, Annalie?
Okay, Air Women Hub. Thank you. Air Women Hub is at Air Women on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. And we have our website, which I put up different content, www.heirair.com.ng. Thank you.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
and
you so
lending
much.
your voice to
Thank
this
you.
Thank you
conversation.
so much.
Yeah.
And thank you
you.
too, Didi. We'll take a quick break. When we return, more on The Weekend Show.